Hi, Misfits. This is Kevin.
And this is Kate.
Welcome to Horrorwood. Chang.
Chang?
The cymbals. Clang, not Chang.
Okay.
What was that?
Okay.
The cymbals. Kate, how are you?
I'm warm.
It is a hot day here in Chi-Town. We are all suffering.
But you know what? We have air conditioning.
But there's AC inside.
It's not on right now because it's too loud
No,
for
it's
recording.
Okay.
But
no, Kate blasted some in between our first recording and our second one. So now we are cool and calm and collected.
trying to be.
And we're ready to do things and maybe not see people, but do things.
You're feeling it over there.
I'm feeling it.
That coffee has kicked in. Your 6 p.m. venti
My 6 p.m.
coffee.
Trenta.
Oh, shit. Your 6 p.m. Trenta coffee.
Trenta cold brew with 2 shots of espresso, 4 Splenda, and oat milk. That's my go-to.
Oh, my God. And it's evening, and you just finished it, so you are ready to go.
I'm ready to run a mile. Actually, no, because I'd probably run 20 steps and then fall over.
You do have Zumba tonight, so you got to, get it together.
Get it together. Shake those bodies. Okay, Kate. Well, are you ready to get into this story today?
I guess that was such an abrupt change in your
Sorry.
demeanor.
It is Pride Month. I'm bringing this. I think we've probably already talked about it. We're celebrating all of the letters LGBTQIA+. We're getting into it. Happy Pride, everybody. Take this June and have a good time. Fight for equality. Yay, yay, yay. So I wanted to do a story about somebody who is sort of I guess you could call him a gay icon.
Okay.
He wasn't out at the time, of course, because we're taking it back to the silent film era.
Gotcha.
If you'll remember, we've been there many a times.
I do remember.
You know, B.H. DeLay,
BH.
Rudy Valentino. And now today we're going to be talking about another silent film era star, Ramon Novarro.
Ramon Novarro.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
All right.
So, Ramon Gil Samaniego, later known as Novarro, was born February 6th, 1899, in Durango City, Mexico.
Okay.
It is in the northwestern part of Mexico. His parents were Dr. Mariano N. Samaniego and Lenore Perez Gavillan.
All right.
To escape the turmoil of the Mexican Revolution, which was happening at the time, his family eventually relocated to Los Angeles.
Okay.
I'll get into more detail about how that went down.
Sure.
Navarro's lineage traced back to the Castilian town of Burgos, Spain, from which 2 brothers migrated to the Americas in the 1600s, and then that's how that whole lineage came about.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy? They could trace it back so far.
And then it was just like 2 dudes.
2 dudes that came over from Spain and were like, family. The Samaniegos were kind of a big deal in Mexico, with many family members holding state positions and enjoying the president's esteem at the time. Ramon's grandfather, Mariano Samaniego, was a doctor in Juarez, renowned for his kindness. He was a good guy.
Wow, okay.
People liked him a lot. He actually ended up serving as interim governor of Chihuahua, and was the first city councilman of El Paso, Texas.
Okay. Very esteemed
professional, made his way over to Texas in the U.S. and got into it. Dr. Mariano N. Samaniego, Ramon's father, was born in Juarez, completed high school in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and earned his dentistry degree from the University of Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
He then established a successful dental practice in Durango. In 1891, he married Lenore, the daughter of a wealthy landowner.
Oh.
The Perez Gavilan family had Spanish and Aztec heritage, with local legends claiming descent from Guerrero, a prince of Montezuma.
My goodness.
Isn't this insane?
You got a prince. You got landowners.
Rich people studying in the U.S.
Politicians.
So the Samaniego family home was dubbed the Garden of Eden. They were a very Catholic family. I'll just start off by saying that. And that's where 13 children were born.
That is a lot.
That's a lot of babies, a lot of kids. Emilio, Guadalupe, Rosa, Ramon, Lenore, Mariano, Luz, Antonio, Jose, Carmen, Angel, and Eduardo. Those were all the kids.
Okay, so Ramon was the fourth.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So the family ended up fleeing from Durango and going to Mexico City in 1913 to escape the Mexican Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to go into all the details, but I wrote a paragraph about the revolution.
All right.
Let's dive into it.
Let's hear it.
The Mexican Revolution spanned from 1910 to 1920, and it was a conflict that reshaped Mexico's social, political, and economic landscape.
Mm-hmm.
It began as a rebellion against a long-standing dictator, Porfirio Diaz, and this rebellion was led by Francisco I.
Okay.
They were advocating at the time for democratic reforms. Like, the dictator thing was not working out, and people were starting to be like, fuck this.
Yeah.
And rising up to overthrow it. Because, I mean, why wouldn't you? The revolution saw the rise of influential leaders like Emiliano Zapata, who fought for land redistribution, and Pancho Villa, a charismatic northern military leader.
All right.
Following the overthrow of Diaz, there were some internal conflicts that continued among the different factions of people participating in the revolution. Victoriano Huerta's brief and unpopular regime was challenged and eventually defeated by forces loyal to Venustiano Carranza. The culmination of the revolution was marked by the adoption of the 1917 Constitution in Mexico, which introduced reforms in land distribution, labor rights, and national governance. I mean, same thing. Despite continued unrest, the revolution laid the foundation for kind of modern day Mexican society and subsequent political developments. This was a turning point for Mexico.
Yeah.
It was like, this is dictatorship shit.
Yes. Got it.
Isn't working for us. So that was that. By 1915.
Oh, that is a difference there.
The turmoil of the revolution had reached the capital, Mexico City, where Ramon was with his family. Ramon's father then returned with Ramon and two of his brothers to Durango, where they were from. And the rest of the family joined them later that summer. He got him out, went back to Durango, and the family followed later in the summer. Ramon was deeply religious. The whole family was deeply Catholic and religious. And Ramon, as a child, would demonstrate his faith through intense displays such as fasting, performing chores meant for servants, and sleeping on the floor. Take with that what you... I mean, we'll get into how this...
That was just his way of acting out.
I mean, yes, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just like... everybody was just super religious and really... I don't want to say crazy because it's not the right term. But devout.
Sure.
So, with the revolution escalating in Durango as well, they couldn't escape it. They tried to leave, go to Mexico City. They went back to Durango. You just can't get away from it.
You can't, yeah.
It's an uprising. So in September of 1916, Ramon and one of his brothers attempted to migrate to El Paso, Texas, where their father's relatives resided, his grandfather. Their initial attempt was thwarted by bandit activities, but they succeeded a few months later. It was hard to get over the border at that time.
Yeah.
Ramon, however, was adamant about not staying in El Paso. He didn't like it there. Driven by his aspiration for a film career, he convinced his brother to accompany him to Los Angeles, arriving on Thanksgiving Day in 1916.
Okay.
He wanted to be famous.
And he was 7. How old was he?
So he was born in 1899. So in 1916, he would have been 17.
17, okay.
Yeah. So he's a young guy, wants to go to LA, wants to do all this stuff. He informed the family that Los Angeles would now be their home.
Oh. That's pretty bold.
He was like, I hate El Paso.
What a teenager thing to do. Like, guys, I hate it here. We're all moving
You're
to
all
LA.
moving to LA. And they did.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Yes. So his parents and siblings arrived in El Paso in the fall of 1917 and then joined him in LA right after that.
All right.
The following year in 1918. It's interesting to note, I mean, some of the family wasn't all there. Like, some of the 3 of Ramon's sisters, Guadalupe, Rosa, and Lenore, entered the convent.
Oh, okay.
So they went and did their own thing. While his parents lingered in El Paso with family and attended to the remaining family business in Mexico, Ramon tried to get work in Hollywood.
Sure.
He moved out there and was like, all right,
let's go.
I'm hitting the ground running.
Yeah.
He won a few roles as an extra.
Okay.
But nearly starved during his first year in the city. Like wasn't making any money, wasn't getting...
literal starving artist.
Like a literal starving artist.
Okay.
He took a variety of odd jobs to survive, including a singing waiter, a busboy, a piano teacher, a grocery store clerk. He allegedly also posed nude.
Oh.
Allegedly. This isn't super confirmed, but for the drawing classes at J. Francis Smith School of Illustration and Painting. In 1917, he got a permanent job as an usher at Tally's Theater, Clunes Auditorium. There, he met the slightly closeted actors Edward Everett Horton and Franklin Pangborn.
Okay.
Novarro's dancing talents were noticed as he was essentially doing what Rudy Valentino did as a taxi dancer, which was like going to the nightclubs and dancing, serving, busing, that kind of thing. So people notice.
Yeah.
And he's hot. So he's like a good-looking young dude. People are like, we're super into it.
Young, hot, talented.
dancing.
LA's gonna devour him.
Eat him up. He ended up, because of that, in a stage musical on Broadway. Like, someone saw him and was like, I'm putting you in my show.
Awesome.
And he left Los Angeles for New York City in the summer of 1918. And this is where I read that show that he was in was at the Majestic.
Okay.
Yeah.
For those who are like, what? We just recorded a Patreon episode that has the Majestic in it. And it's like worlds colliding.
As a Mexican citizen, Novarro couldn't be drafted into World War I.
Oh, okay.
And was one of the few good-looking and athletic men left working in the movies and theater.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that.
Everybody else had to go to war.
Yeah.
Oh. Despite little dancing, like actual dancing skill and a tendency to get sore feet, which limited his ability, Ramon not only lasted through the Broadway run, but he spent a year touring the country with that production. I think it was a Broadway show, but also kind of like this vaudeville thing.
Sure.
As the show was drawing to a close, Novarro was finally able and ready to get his big break into the movie business.
Oh.
Business movies. Here we go. After returning to Los Angeles after that wonderful stint on Broadway, Ramon Novarro continued to receive minor roles and did not gain credited recognition until 1920. He ended up modifying his name a little bit.
Okay.
Samaniego didn't seem to be like landing with people.
Got it.
He modified his name, dropping the accent and adding an S to the end, aiming to enhance his appeal. Ramon Samaniegos.
Okay.
He added an S to that, which I feel like...
I don't know how that's super
different.
different.
I don't know how it's super different, but yeah. Novarro occasionally appeared as a dancer in films, often actually provocatively. Like, he was always like, shirtless or scantily clad or had some kind of like little loincloth on.
Yeah.
He participated in the Roman bacchanalia scene in 1921's Man-Woman Marriage. He performed a seductive dagger dance in Mark Sennett's A Small Town Idol from 1921.
Like Britney Spears before Britney Spears.
Yes! snake, just a giant snake. Not really,
no,
but
the
I
knives.
can. Oh, the knives! Oh no! I have to take a drink of water.
Okay, me too. And I also just remembered there's a part I left out in the one I just did. So the artists and models they went to that tour.
Yeah.
The police actually like went to Canada where they were on tour and questioned all those girls, which I just thought was interesting, and I totally forgot to say it.
That is crazy. What the fuck? Kate's story on Patreon is going to be amazing. So if you're not there now,
I don't know that we're going to say
no,
amazing.
it is.
Let's dial it back. It's
no, I'm dialing it up. It's amazing.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, he's doing all kinds of sexy dancing and portrayed a dancing faun in The Concert from 1921, adorned with minimal attire and elaborate facial makeup. Give me a face full of makeup and a naked body.
That's all you need.
That's all I need. Happy Pride. At the Kinema, I don't know how to say it, he met actress Darylis Perdue, with whom he partnered in dance.
Okay.
Novarro also befriended her boyfriend, aspiring actor Richard Dix. D-I-X.
Richard Dix? Dick Dix?
Dick Dix.
Oh, man, that guy didn't stand a chance.
Who played a pivotal role in advancing Navarro's career, leading to a co-starring role in Goldwyn Pictures' Mr. Barnes of New York.
Okay.
So he's meeting the right people.
Yeah.
He did this Broadway thing, came back, and really jumped into basically whatever people were wanting to put him in. And I think that got him to where he needed to be. So there's actually some uncertainty about when Ramon Novarro actually first appeared in films.
Okay.
Because due to the loss of, we've talked about this many times, but the loss of many silent films of the time, and the abundance of minor actors at the same time. So we've got what we have, but we don't necessarily know that those were the films that he started off in.
Sure.
Some historians suggest that his debut might have been in the 1918 film The Little American with Wallace Beery and Mary Pickford.
Okay.
Most of the work he had done up until that point were bit parts. His breakthrough role, however, like actual full breakthrough, came with The Prisoner of Zenda, where he starred alongside Alice Terry, who was the wife of director Rex Ingram. Ingram advised Ramon to change his last name to Novarro. He was like, it's not, Samaniegos isn't suiting you. Or people just aren't getting it.
Okay.
So he did. He changed his name to Novarro, and then he kind of fell in with Alice Terry and Rex Ingram.
Okay.
And befriended them, and then that's where things took off.
Gotcha.
Because Rex Ingram was like, I'm putting you in my movies.
Yeah.
Why he was doing that? Let me tell you.
Okay.
Rex Ingram saw potential in Novarro as a star, but also sought to manipulate him.
Uh-oh.
And remember, we're dealing with MGM. Having previously worked with Rudolph Valentino, Rex Ingram found Valentino difficult to work with and didn't like him. And Ingram hoped the more naive Novarro would be easier to control.
Ugh.
To test this, Ingram subjected Novarro to 3 exhausting screen tests for a role in the film The Prisoner of Zenda. It's only the beginning.
Oh, dear.
In promoting his new leading man, Ingram compelled Novarro to adopt Valentino's mannerisms and physical traits down to the smallest detail.
That's so screwed up. Like, hey, can you do everything that guy's doing? He's just a little annoying. So, can you do it? But, do what he's doing.
And I think that's also maybe why he made him change the name. Valentino, to something sexy and easy for people to say. And also, he's known as the Latin lover of famous players Lasky.
Rudolph Valentino is.
Valentino is. And so we need our own Latin lover.
Yeah.
And this guy's hot. He's young. He can act. So why don't we try to be like Valentino? Tell him, yucca. Yeah, he even insisted Novarro style his hair exactly like Valentino for publicity photos. So to grasp how Ramon Novarro rose to stardom in his mid-20s, we do have to look at Valentino a little bit.
Okay.
I did a whole episode on Rudy Valentino, so Was that a Patreon or was that a main?
No, I think that's a main.
A main. Go listen to it if you want to, because there's a lot of stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
But to give a really quick overview, Valentino was an Italian actor, super hot, and had garnered a massive following by 1922 in the silent film era as a desert chic, embodying the epitome of romantic allure. He was hot shit. He was known as the Latin lover.
All of that, it's still so funny to me. He was Italian, playing a chic.
Oh, yeah.
Known as the Latin lover.
Right. And it's funny because, like, it doesn't end with Valentino.
Yeah.
Like, this was the exact same thing for Novarro. He was playing all kinds of just, brown people.
Yeah.
So Valentino epitomized what moviegoers wanted, which was like, someone sexy. But he was, exclusive to another studio. MGM didn't have a Latin lover, so they needed one. Or they were looking for one. Enter Novarro. Despite often being cast in diverse ethnic roles, from a South Sea Islander in Where the Pavement Ends to European swordsman in Scaramouche and The Prisoner of Zenda, Novarro became MGM's answer to Valentino. I do want to say here that Valentino actually was close friends with Novarro at one point. They did know each other.
Okay.
And and Valentino did pass away in 1926 from a thing on your tummy that you get when you smoke and drink too much. Ulcer. There we go. In 1923, action movie director Fred Niblo cast Novarro in Thy Name is Woman, opposite the passionate Barbara Lamar. Novarro negotiated a $10,000 a week contract with with MGM's Louis B. Mayer, and was considered for the lead in Ben-Hur after Valentino was ruled out.
Okay.
Initially, George Walsh was cast as Judah Ben-Hur, but the character Judah Ben-Hur. But when production issues arose in Italy, chief of production Irving Thalberg replaced Walsh with Novarro at Niblo's insistence.
Okay.
So the director was like, well, then get Novarro.
Yeah.
A little bit about Ben-Hur, because this is what Novarro becomes super well known for. It's like big break situation. Ben-Hur is an epic tale set in ancient Jerusalem during the time of Jesus Christ that focused on Judah Ben-Hur, a wealthy Jewish prince. The story begins with the reunion of Judah and his childhood friend, Masala, who has become a powerful Roman officer. Their friendship turns into enmity, which is a weird word that I added into this. They become enemies when Messala demands Judah to betray his own people and show loyalty to Rome. When a loose tile from Judah's house accidentally falls and injures the new Roman governor, Messala seizes the opportunity to falsely accuse Judah of treason. As a result, Judah is sent to the galleys as a slave, and his mother and sister are imprisoned. I'm just going to leave that there. That's the plot of Ben-Hur. I do want to include some fun trivia about Ben-Hur. These are from IMDb. So the film had an extra cast like no other. Many Hollywood stars showed up on set to watch the shooting and were pressed into service as extras.
Oh, wow.
Especially in the chariot race scene. Many would later become Hollywood's top stars, but who were at the time just struggling actors looking to make a buck. But they were in the crowd as well. Among the well-known, soon-to-be famous people were John Barrymore, Lionel Barrymore, Joan Crawford, Gary Cooper, Marion Davies, Myrna Loy, John Gilbert, Douglas Fairbanks, Clark Gable,
oh my God,
Harold Lloyd, Carol Lombard, Janet Gaynor, Fay Ray, Mary Pickford, Colleen Moore, Lillian Gish, Dorothy Gish, Samuel Goldwyn, and Rupert Julian.
All of them.
All of
Just
them.
all
the stars.
All the
were
stars
there.
of the golden age of Hollywood.
They were
running in a chariot race.
They were extras in Ben-Hur.
Amazing.
And then also when actor George Walsh was cast to play that title role in the Goldwyn production, Ramon Novarro was at first really devastated. I think he wanted that to begin with.
Yeah.
He wanted to play the part so much, but when MGM merged, Metro, Goldwyn, and Mayer merged, and Ben-Hur's director, screenwriter, and Walsh himself were sent packing, Ramon didn't allow himself the luxury of thinking he had a second chance. That all changed when MGM Irving Thalberg called Novarro at his home. He told the actor he had something important to discuss with him and asked that he report to the studio immediately.
Get here now.
Get here now.
We got big news.
And that was where he asked Ramon to play the lead in Ben-Hur.
And Ramon was like, finally.
Thalberg had one request, though, that Novarro make a screen test. Putting his entire feature on the line, Ramon refused.
Why?
When the shocked Thalberg demanded to know why, Ramon said he assumed Thalberg was concerned about his physique and explained that his body was in good shape. If he had any doubts, all he had to do was screen his recent film Where the Pavement Ends, because Ramon is half naked through most of it.
Wow, that is some ballsy
Right.
attitude.
Thalberg smiled and agreed, respecting Ramon's bluntness and honesty. Novarro was on top of the world. His dream was at last coming true. The role of a lifetime belonged to him.
I can't believe that worked, but okay.
I mean, taking chances.
That's like so the attitude of just a young newcomer who thinks he's hot shit, who's like, I don't have to audition for you. I am this person.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's such that mentality.
It is. Oh, I 100% agree. Okay, so the release of Ben-Hur in 1926 catapulted Novarro to global fame. This was a big movie. This was his leading man moment, especially as the movie business was about to hit the sound era.
Yeah.
To avoid fan mobs, he often traveled incognito using a fake mustache and beard. Despite his success in films, Novarro was never truly content with his movie career. His true passion was singing, which led him to undertake several successful concert tours across Europe and South America. He was aware that his film career primarily drove his popularity.
Sure.
But that reality created a disconnect between his public persona and personal aspirations. Different thing, different person.
Who he was on screen is not who he was in his personal
as
life.
a person.
Yeah.
And I think he struggled with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I get, 100%. So frustrated by being cast in various ethnic roles, every other thing under the sun, regardless of what you actually are, Novarro became determined to assert his cultural identity as Mexican. He distanced himself from studio publicists and used his own funds to commission George Hurrell to create glamorous portraits of him in traditional Mexican attire.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's like, fine, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it my fucking self.
Yeah.
And like,
I mean, good for him.
yeah, I agree. Now we're getting into the talkies.
Yes.
Ramon Novarro made his first talking film in 1929, starring as a singing French soldier in Devil May Care. He also featured in several notable films during this period, including The Pagan with Dorothy Janis, Mata Hari alongside Greta Garbo, The Barbarian with Myrna Loy, and Laughing Boy opposite Lupe Velez.
Okay. Not too shabby of some co-stars
girl.
there.
Yeah. Novarro remained loyal to those who helped him up until this point, particularly Rex Ingram and Marcus Lowe of Lowe's Theaters and MGM Studios.
Okay.
Despite numerous offers, he stayed with Lowe, expressing a rare gratitude in an industry where stars often criticize their mentors in studios. After several musicals and miscast roles, Novarro left MGM.
Okay.
In 1935, I believe, later performing on stage, singing, directing, and managing his real estate investments. So he dropped out of the movies.
Oh, wow.
And ended up doing more theater, which I think he liked more anyway.
Okay.
And also started kind of buying up real estate with his investments. And
that's exactly what celebrities do today.
They do today,
That's
exactly.
how they make all their money.
Yeah, and this was the end of his MGM contract in 1935.
Okay.
So he got out of it. Navarro continued to act intermittently. He appeared in films for Republic Pictures, a Mexican religious drama, and a French comedy. In the 1940s, he took on several small roles in American films, including We Were Strangers, which was directed by John Huston and featuring Jennifer Jones and John Garfield. In 1958, he was considered for a role in the television series The Green Peacock with Howard Duff and Ida Lupino, but the project didn't come to fruition, unfortunately. There was a Broadway attempt in the 1960s, but that was unsuccessful for him. And then Novarro he did stay active on television with appearances as late as 1968 on NBC's The High Chaparral. At the height of his fame in the late 1920s and early 30s, Novarro earned over $100,000 per film.
Oh, wow.
He wisely invested some of his earnings in real estate, including a renowned Hollywood Hills residence designed in 1927 by Frank Lloyd Wright.
Cool.
The son of famous... residence designed in 1927 by Lloyd Wright, the son of famous architect Frank Lloyd Wright.
Oh, okay. And he was making $100,000 back then?
Yeah.
Damn.
I wonder... So I'm thinking that's an inflated number. I apologize. Because the thing was $10,000 per film.
Gotcha.
Maybe I added a zero on that accidentally.
Well,
I'm
it
gonna
happens.
I'm going to delete it. So it's called the Samuel Novarro Residence in Los Feliz.
Mm-hmm.
God. I was like,
we talked all about it.
Los Feliz. Designed by Lloyd Wright, it blends into the hillside with sleek concrete facade, oxidized copper accents, and horizontal windows.
Cool.
Initially built for Hollywood manager Louis Samuel and his wife, the house became associated with Ramon Novarro after Samuel's embezzlement of Novarro's funds was discovered in 1930. Samuel's was his manager at the time. And he was taking money.
These people.
Novarro discreetly settled the matter and assumed ownership of that house by 1931, expanding the property with additions like a music room, a bathroom suite, and an outdoor pergola.
Oh.
He resided there until the late 1930s and then ended up selling and moving.
Okay.
In later years, Novarro expressed dissatisfaction with most of his sound films, except for a few like The Pagan and parts of Song of India. He didn't even mention his 1932 film Mata Hari with Greta Garbo.
Oh, wow.
He's like, I don't know.
It's like, didn't happen.
Although he briefly returned to the movies without much success, as we went through, he appeared on television. In an interview with DeWitt Bodine in the late 1960s, Novarro mentioned writing an autobiography, which he thought might not be publishable until after his death. Gay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He reminisced about the 1920s, noting that stars were granted more privacy back then, with personal details kept out of the public eye unless they chose otherwise.
Sure.
However, on the evening of October 30th, 1968, Ramon Novarro, once a celebrated Hollywood romantic icon, now 69 and frail, heard a knock on the door of his Laurel Canyon home.
Okay.
Wearing a red and blue robe, he opened the door and greeted his guests. A burly 22-year-old Paul Ferguson and a slender 17-year-old Tom Ferguson, unaware that he was about to be brutally murdered.
Oh. Did he know these guys?
No.
Okay.
The 60s weren't treating Novarro very well to begin with.
Okay.
Ramon was a devout Catholic and a struggling alcoholic for over 3 decades. He had his driver's license revoked due to multiple DUIs, including 2 within a span of 2 days in 1960. And he was relying on unemployment benefits.
Yikes.
His career as a romantic lead, once his forte, had dwindled and, likely accelerated by the alcohol abuse.
He's going through
it. Novarro seriously contemplated entering monastic life, longing for his past fame and wealth. Despite attempts to revive his career, luck eluded him. Standing at 5'6" in 1968, Novarro battled advanced emphysema and arthritis, weighing 198 pounds. He frequented an escort service named Messieurs the Best. Messieurs the Best.
Okay.
On nearby Fountain Avenue. His secretary of 8 years, Edward Weber, assisted him in writing his memoirs and managed various tasks, including payments to the escort service.
Okay.
Often disguised as payments for gardening services and purchasing alcohol. So he was seeing male escorts.
Yeah.
So Weber, his assistant, is setting all this up for him, usually. But on October 30th, Weber happened to visit a liquor store near Navarro's residence. The store owner informed him that Novarro had just ordered a delivery of cigarettes, 1 carton of Winston's and 1 of Marlboro, despite not being a smoker.
Oh.
Weber offered to deliver them to Novarro. When Weber arrived at Navarro's residence at 3110 Laurel Canyon Boulevard around 5:30 p.m. that day, Novarro greeted him at the door in a dressing gown, appearing surprised. Like, oh, why are you here, Weber?
Sure.
Weber has sensed a lotion scent on Novarro and noticed his freshly trimmed mustache and goatee, suspecting that Novarro had company but wasn't invited inside.
Okay.
The following morning, Halloween Day, October 31st, Weber resumed work at 8:30 a.m. and found Navarro's home in disarray.
Ooh.
Overturned chairs, a crushed pair of spectacles on the living room carpet, and scattered liquor bottles. While searching the 9-room house, he initially found nothing unusual in the closed bedroom. Upon opening the curtains, Weber discovered Novarro lying nude on his back in bed, severely beaten. Scrawled on the mirror in brown makeup pencil were the words, "Us girls are better than faggots." The name Larry was inked onto a blue bedsheet beside the body, with scratches on Navarro's neck.
What? Us girls
are better than
Larry?
Faggots. I don't know.
What?
So Weber immediately called the police. Soon, investigators arrived along with a crowd of reporters and spectators. A newspaper photographer stumbled upon a pile of bloody clothing, which included a jacket, an undershirt, a t-shirt, and 2 pairs of underwear in the ivy bed on the neighboring lot. Ivy bed as in like ivy, like plant outside on the ground. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Not like an ivy color.
I was like, what?
No,
Okay,
which was on the neighboring lot to
Got it.
Navarro's house.
So like they had dumped the stuff. Yeah.
Blood-covered stuff over there. Yeah, they found it. So who did this evil shit?
Those 2 guys that showed up at the store.
Yes, their names were Paul and Tom Ferguson, and they had acquired Navarro's phone number from a previous visitor to solicit an invitation for himself and his younger brother. Ooh. Both understood the nature of the invitation. They had certainly done this before. Paul and Tom were acting as hustlers. Novarro, who was considered an easy touch by such men, welcomed them into his home.
What does easy touch mean?
Just a gentle guy.
Okay.
Navarro was homosexual. Of course, we've already said this. A secret he's kept to protect himself in a society and industry hostile to his orientation, compounded by a strict Catholic upbringing. Mm-hmm. So basically, they found his phone number from somebody who had already gone over there to be an escort and had called him and set up an appointment with Novarro. Mm-hmm. And they had no intention of doing the sex stuff.
They weren't going to hook up with him. They
were going to rob him.
And this is something that they did often, you said?
I don't know that they did it often. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm not going to go too much into it, but I'm going to talk a little bit about Paul and Tom and why they might have done this.
Okay.
So what Paul and Tom did was unconscionable, but I do want to talk about them for just a minute, only a minute. On October 21st, 9 days before the murder, 17-year-old Tommy Ferguson arrived in Los Angeles. He had escaped from an Illinois reform school earlier that year. His grandmother sent him to stay with his brother, 22-year-old Paul, and Paul's wife, Mary, in Gardena, hoping for a fresh start. Mm-hmm. Paul and Tommy grew up in a tumultuous household. Their father, Lucky, worked as a steeplejack. The father was described as a daredevil and unreliable due to alcoholism and womanizing. Good times. Paul left home at a young age. Don't think he got along well with Dad.
Yeah.
Hitchhiking to his grandmother's in Chicago, and later embarking on various adventures, including ranch work in Wyoming and military service. Tommy and Paul shared a rebellious nature, but they had sporadic contact over the years.
Oh, okay.
I think they both kind of got out from under their father and then sort of went their separate ways.
Okay.
Paul eventually ends up out in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And then Tommy arrived in Los Angeles, staying on Paul's couch, despite their whatever differences they had at the time.
Okay.
Paul was known for his hustling to support his family, and he had recently lost his job. I forgot about that. So Paul had actually done hustling before.
Okay.
Tommy had not. The tensions escalated between Paul and his wife, Mary, leading to her departure on October 29th. So he was having marital issues with his wife, and she left him.
Okay, because it probably didn't help that, like, now his younger brother is staying with them.
Probably doesn't. Yeah, it already sounds like things are tough.
He's lost his job.
He lost his job. He's hustling to make money. I don't think Mary wanted to stick around, especially with his brother, who he doesn't get along. It doesn't sound like a good situation. So in need of money, they, decided to do this try this hustling thing. And Paul was trying to find Tommy a place to stay, and he contacted Victor Nichols, who suggested Ramon Novarro might be interested. So it was this guy who connected them.
Okay.
Victor was a real estate developer who had ties to the hustling world.
Got it.
So he got them in. They hitchhiked to Navarro's home in West Hollywood on October 30th, where the events leading to Navarro's tragic murder unfolded. As that fateful evening progressed on October 30th at Navarro's home, the three had sort of established this easy camaraderie with one another.
Okay.
Things started off gentle.
And he wasn't expecting them, you said, right?
He was expecting them. Yeah.
Oh, they called to act like they were.
Got
it.
So we're from, we're hustlers. Let's come over. Like,
we're hustlers. Let's come over. I'm sure it went down just like that.
That's how I'd run my hustling business. Navarro read the older brother's palm. Saw a bright future, taught him a song at the piano.
Oh.
The younger brother contributed his own tune, and the shared liquor fostered a sense of companionship that Navarro often sought. I think he was looking for company.
Yeah, he was just lonely, and he's like, some guys to hang out with, and let's play piano, and let's sing my favorite thing, and drink, and this is sad.
It is really sad. So the younger brother contributed his own tune. They shared liquor, frequently passing out drunk. To avoid any sexual connection.
Wait, Navarro did?
I don't know what I mean by that. The younger brother, I misspoke. So we know that Paul often hustled. But now that I'm going back, Tommy also dabbled in hustling.
Oh, okay.
So they both did dabble in hustling. And what I wrote here means that Tommy would drink a bunch and just pass out so he wouldn't have to do the sex part of the hustling, which kind of defeats the purpose of being a hustler.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I guess when I think of hustler, I don't think of a sex worker.
Oh, there's hustling is sex work. This is what I'm talking about here. Like,
when I think of hustling, I think like, we're going to run this like money scheme. Like, let me
No. This is hustling as in prostitution.
Gotcha.
He was having sex with these people from that.
No, that I understood. Okay. But yeah, the term was
hustlers.
Got it.
Yeah. No, so he was like, that's what it was for. Like, companionship, but it would also lead to sex.
Of course.
Yeah.
So Tommy was like, I'm not going to do that. I'll just like
drink a bunch and then pass out.
Okay.
Tommy and Paul was hustlers.
Got it.
But they were straight, and they were only doing it for the money, and they had ways to go around.
Oh, they were both straight?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Gay for pay. It's a thing.
Wow.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, there's a lot of porn stars out there that do gay porn who are completely straight. So, lonely with his contemporaries dead or in seclusion, Navarro showed the brothers a photograph of himself as a muscular man in Ben-Hur.
Oh, he's just trying to relive his glory days.
I know, to which the younger brother remarked, "Doesn't look like you."
Asshole.
I know. So, whether coerced by the older brother or to display his influence in Hollywood, Navarro called a film publicist, agitatedly claiming he had discovered a young man with star quality. He was trying to woo these guys over.
This is so sad.
And he was like, let me call this publicist I know because you're hot and I'll get you something. The evening took a dark turn as the burly young man started demanding money. Mm. They had learned, I don't know how they had learned this or how they figured this out. Maybe it was from somebody who knew him or the guy that referred them. But apparently there was $5,000 in cash rumored to be in the house
Okay.
at the time. Navarro truthfully denied having such money. He was having money problems.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to have $5,000 in cash just lying around. But
Yeah.
for whatever reason, they thought that he had cash laying around that house.
Okay.
The younger brother joined them, adding his own demands. He's like, what's happening here? You're demanding this $5,000, which I don't have. And the older guy, Paul, is like, yes, you do. And then the younger guy's like, yes, you do. You have this money. We want it. Give it to us now. So this quickly escalates into a robbery type situation.
Yeah.
Navarro's denials led to a violent altercation.
Oh.
The brothers beat Navarro, dragging him to the bathroom to keep him conscious with cold water while they beat him. In his final moments, Navarro prayed, "Hail Mary, full of grace," as the brothers took turns beating him with a cane.
Oh, my God.
Binding him with an electric cord. The younger brother scratched his face, and they left him to choke to death on his own blood.
Oh, my goodness. This is
It's
so
horrendous.
intense.
Yeah. The killers ransacked the house, discarding photographs of Navarro's past and writing that slur on the thing to mislead police. I think they thought if they called him names and were hustlers and wrote all these like homophobic slurs around.
Is that why they wrote Larry?
I don't know the Larry thing. I don't know what that is.
Like throw off the cops or something?
Maybe, yeah. Or maybe to put someone else's name there,
Yeah.
like to, divert them away from the situation.
Did they ever find any cash?
No.
These fuckers.
He didn't have it.
So it's for nothing. All for nothing.
All for nothing. A lot of these events were reconstructed in a book called Beyond Paradise, The Life of Ramon Novarro by Andre Soares, and conversations with Jim Kepner, who attended the trial of these two guys later. But with that trial, Navarro's life was put on trial alongside his murderers.
Of course.
So violence against non-prominent homosexuals often went unreported. And the defense portrayed Navarro as, quote, an old queer.
Ugh.
So let's get into how these two were caught.
Okay.
Because they were caught.
I would assume since they were on trial.
Yeah. During the torture, young Tom used a telephone in another room to call a girlfriend back in Chicago.
That idiot. Okay.
Yeah. And he told her they were at Navarro's home and that Paul was trying to find some money. This phone conversation lasted over 40 minutes.
Okay. And
at one point, Tom put the phone down to check on Paul and make sure he wasn't hurting Navarro. And the girl on the other end could hear screams in the background.
Oh, my God.
When Navarro's body was discovered the next morning, hundreds of pictures had been ripped from the walls by the Fergusons in a desperate search for the non-existent money. Ugh. On a hunch, the LAPD checked the phone logs for Navarro's home and found a call to Chicago from the previous evening. They contacted the young girl, who revealed everything she knew. Good for her. After their arrest, Paul Ferguson convinced his younger brother to confess, believing that because he was 17 and a juvenile, technically, Tom would only face a short jail sentence.
So he wanted to throw his brother under the bus.
While Paul could face the gas chamber, like it's punishable by death. Tom Ferguson confessed to the murder, but the prosecutor moved to have him tried as an adult. And when the court granted this motion, Tom immediately recanted his confession.
Oh, of course.
During their joint trial, each Ferguson brother claimed that the other had tortured and killed Ramon. The brothers' mother also testified that her younger son believed Navarro deserved to be killed.
Why?
Because he was gay.
So the mother is testifying about this?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And she's like, yeah, he just thought because he was gay, he deserved to die. I think she was grasping at straws to say anything to like try to woo the jury over to her side. Or the
brothers.
The brother's side, thank you. The trial also revealed the brothers' harsh upbringing in a repressive Catholic environment. Despite their backgrounds, any potential compassion was negated by the brutality of their attack. 22 deadly blows.
Oh.
Unrepentant, they still blamed each other, shifting their story from robbery to claiming unwelcome advances by Navarro.
Wow.
The Ferguson brothers were convicted of first-degree murder and each sentenced to life in prison.
Great.
While in prison, the brothers received fan letters from women.
Why? I know that this happens in several cases. It's just bewildering to me. Why is that what you want?
Yeah, it's disgusting. I hate it. They were interviewed by Truman Capote for a TV special, and they became subjects of numerous tabloid articles and sensational novels.
What was the TV special? Do you know the name of it?
I don't. I didn't look it up. Despite being sentenced to life imprisonment, the time served was notably short.
Oh.
One brother was released on parole after 6 years.
For murdering a man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the other one was released after 9. I'm not sure which is which. I believe Tom was released first and then Paul was released later.
Wow.
It's widely speculated that their lenient sentences were influenced by the fact that Novarro was gay. Both continued to commit crimes after this, including rape. And remain in prison for unrelated offenses.
So they did stay in prison after that.
They got out, but they went right back in because they were terrible people.
Yeah, because they're
and
assholes.
They kept
being terrible people.
Right. So Ramon Novarro had always grappled with the torment of his homosexuality and, of course, struggled with alcoholism throughout his life. He was conflicted between the faith and being gay. It was hard to reconcile. I mean, it's interesting to look at it on, like you have these two guys who grew up in a repressed Catholic home. Mm-hmm. They end up murdering a gay guy who's also like kind of on that other side of the spectrum where he's like, I'm struggling with my faith and belief in what I am.
Yeah. It's really similar to the silent movie theater case with Larry Austin because he was gay and also Catholic and he was also Republican. Yeah. Like everything that he followed and believed kind of went against who he was.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that unfortunately is still a thing today.
Of course.
Going back to the early 1920s, Novarro did have flings here and there. I mean, I hope that he could at least find some kind of happiness, right? So Novarro entered into a romantic relationship with composer Harry Parch, who was working as an usher at the Los Angeles Philharmonic at the time. Oh. So they had a thing. However, as Novarro's acting career flourished, he chose to end that affair. Later in the 1920s, he became romantically involved with Hollywood journalist Herbert Howe, who also served as his publicist for a time. And he also had a relationship with Noel Sullivan, a wealthy man from San Francisco. Oh. His brutal death is now recognized as a hate crime. Yeah. The attention surrounding his murder shifted more towards his killers, the Ferguson brothers, than to Novarro himself. I want to bring this up because this information is out there.
Okay.
And I think it's been debunked. And the fact that it's out there is just kind of a nod to how people viewed homosexuality a couple decades ago. Yeah. And let me get into it. There are several myths surrounding Ramon Novarro's murder, with perhaps the most infamous being the false claim that he had received a dildo from Rudolph Valentino, allegedly modeled after the actor's own penis. And according to this myth, the Fergusons forced this object down Novarro's throat, leading to his suffocation. Another version suggests that they beat Novarro to death with a lead version of this object or violated him.
I'm sure the tabloids were eating this shit up.
100%. Variations of the myth describe the object as lead, jewel-encrusted, gold-plated, silver. These sensational stories were first published in Kenneth Anker's 1975 book, Hollywood Babylon.
Oh, yeah, that thing's a piece of shit.
Yeah. So they are entirely fabricated and exploit Novarro's homosexuality to create a sensational narrative. Mm-hmm. This myth reflects the discriminatory attitudes of the time, where there was a desire to see punishment inflicted on gay men. During Paul Ferguson's trial, his defense even insisted that Novarro deserved his fate.
Wow.
In contrast, the prosecution acknowledged Novarro's sexual orientation, using it prejudiciously in their case, stating in their closing argument that, quote, Novarro was a homosexual who procured young men for sex. He paid for his crimes. Now let Paul Ferguson pay for his. End quote. That's what the prosecution said at the end of their arguments. Isn't that fucked?
That's okay.
Novarro's life, from his Mexican background and aspirations to his emergence as a Latin lover, was marked by hidden romances with men, faked romances with women. Although labeled as a has-been at 36, he endured in the industry as a character actor who would always be dreaming of a comeback. Tragically, his comeback occurred through his murder.
Oh, that's horrible.
Novarro was doubly violated by the murder and the trial that exposed his private life.
Yeah.
Some stars like James Dean and Marilyn Monroe die at the peak of their legends. Novarro's legacy is marred by his brutal end. Despite this, his name still evokes the magic of silent film romantics, securing his place among the greatest stars. In a 1998 interview, Paul Ferguson finally confessed to causing Novarro's death. Tom Ferguson died by suicide on March 6, 2005.
Wow.
Paul Ferguson passed away in 2018 while serving a 60-year sentence for rape in Missouri.
Bye.
Novarro's final resting place is in Calvary Cemetery, East Los Angeles, California. His star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is located at 6350 Hollywood Boulevard. I'll end with a really cool, cute little fact. In his house, he actually had a tiny little theater in there and would often do little marionette shows for his guests.
I can't decide if that's super cute or super creepy, but either
I'm gonna
way,
go with cute.
I love it.
And that's the story of Ramon Novarro. Not like an active gay icon, but after the fact.
Yeah.
Having been murdered by these two fuckers.
Yeah. Oof. Well, let us know what you thought in the comments on
Instagram.
Oh, wait, do I say that part?
Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You do, but I was adding it in. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Horrorwood Podcast.
I was like, this doesn't feel right. Something's off.
You were like, leave a comment.
It's a two-show day. Oh, I'm so confused. So, yes, you can do that, or you can send us an email at
horrorwoodpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you have a little change in your pocket and you want to hear that other case we just recorded about the it wasn't about the Majestic Theater, but it just happens to be mentioned.
There's a mention.
Then you can join the Patreon at
patreon.com/horrorwoodpodcast. Yay! Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride.